Alright, we're off to the gym, 6 a.m. Got physio at 8, so it's a bit of an awkward morning to time, but we do what we do. So, performance tracking. So that's something I'm very passionate about in all areas of my life. Whether it's investments, whether it's finance, whether it's my gym workouts, whether it's losing weight or gaining weight, I track my performance any time I can, because I'm convinced, and the reason I believe in it so passionately is because I've seen the result of it so many times, that tracking performance is not only the key to the ultimate goal of success in whatever you're tracking towards, but it's the thing that drives you, the thing that makes the journey enjoyable. And if the journey's not enjoyable, if you don't love the process, you can never stick with anything. And it's like with building a business. If you don't love the process, you're never going to do it. You're going to give up on that business so damn hard. And you see it all the time. And it's the same with anything, losing weight. People give up on that all the time because they don't see progress, right? And I think progress is one of the biggest drivers for humans that I've seen that keeps people on track. And like, that might sound obvious, but it's a thing that I don't think is as obvious as it sounds, because people take the idea of progress, do I want to say for granted? Well, not necessarily for granted, but they don't think it's that important, that it's worth tracking a lot of the time. People just see their end goal, like I want to save X amount of money, or I want to have $1 million stock portfolio. And because they don't track their progress towards that goal, they end up giving up really early. But then the next level is, so you go, okay, no, I like tracking progress and tracking performance. But then the next level is people don't know how to do it properly. And that's why I built Navexa in the first place, for tracking investment performance, because most people that I've met who invest in stocks or crypto or any kind of investment, property, big one, have no idea what their performance is. No idea. If you ask them specifically, what is the dollar value return on your investment, a lot of the time people can't tell you. Especially with property. It's one people never bother calculating performance for properly. And with stocks, you can expose someone pretty quickly with some obvious easy questions like, what was your capital gain on that stock last year? Like, what was your performance on that stock last year? Like, oh, well, my broker account says I'm up like 30% since I bought them. And it's like, yeah, but you bought them 10 years ago. What was your return last year? They don't know. Well, what's your dividend return on that stock? Well, I don't know. It pays dividends. It's like, yes. But what is the amount of dollars you've earned in dividends from owning that stock? Well, I'm not sure. And it's like, if you're not sure about some of these really basic things, how can you possibly make good decisions whether you should buy more, sell it, hold on to it for longer? You have no idea. You're just kind of investing in the dark at that point. And I've got the classic story where, I've told this a bunch of times, so forgive me if you've heard this already, but when I first started investing, I bought this bank stock on the ASX. And I valued it at a bit higher than it was, and I was like, cool, it's going to rise to this price, it's going to be great. So anyway, fast forward, like I think it was like 4 years later, the price of this bank stock had gone absolutely nowhere. It was dead flat, going up and down a little bit. Ultimately, I put it was only like $1,000 in. I still had about $1,000 worth of this stock, and I was like, I'm going to sell this thing. I'm going to put that grand into some other stock that will have a capital gain. But before I did that, I was like, oh no, this thing pays a dividend. Let me, I'll go into my bank account and add up all the dividends. And I got my transaction list, summed up all the dividends, and to my amazement, I had earned a ton of money from owning this stock in dividends. An amount so significant that the return was made it one of my best stocks that I owned. And I was like, hang on a second. Dividends are a huge part of the performance. And I've just been letting them drop into my bank account and kind of not really paying attention to them. So I didn't end up selling that stock for that very reason. But we're here at the gym. I'll continue the story on the other side. Alright, let's get out of here. So, finished up at the gym. Where was I? So, I had this stock, and as I was saying, dividends, huge component. Now, I've found a lot of investors that I talk to have no idea about performance tracking, and they look in their broker account and they see that, oh, the broker account says I'm up 30%. Now that number is only A, capital gains, and B, does not reflect time in the calculation. So annualization is a huge component to performance, because think of this example. Would you rather own a stock that does 100% return in 1 year, or it did 100% return but it took 10 years? Obviously you're going to go with the first one, right? 1 year, 100% return. But if you own that stock and it goes up 100% in the first year, then you own it for another 10 years, but in that next 10 years it doesn't go anywhere, by the time you annualize that return out, it only did you, let's say the whole period was 10 years to make it easy, it only did you a 10% annualized return, which is not that exciting anymore, because you could have got a similar return in a less risky asset, like, I don't know, consider the historical return of the S&P 500. It's probably better than that. And that's why annualization plays a big play, because people get fooled by their brokerage account. They go and they go, oh, it still says I'm up by 30%. And it's like, yeah, it said that for the last 3 years, because all your gains happened at the time that you bought it. And without looking at annualization, over time you can see, oh, actually this, if your stock had gone nowhere in price, you can be like, oh, the return's actually dropping, because over time it's not changing. So perhaps I should sell this company, or at least re-look into the reason that I bought it in the first place, and evaluate if that still meets your criteria. And you might decide, oh, actually, initially it looked like it was going to be really good. They had this new technology, but now they didn't get that tech and it's kind of stagnated. But without looking at the annualization, you keep fooling yourself with your brokerage account. And the other part is your brokerage account doesn't show dividends. So like my story before, you're just missing a huge piece of the picture. And I haven't even mentioned currency gain and loss. So if you're in, say you're in Australia like me, and you've bought in some US shares, which is super common. Say you bought some Apple shares, for example. The currency gain and loss has a huge impact, because as you all know, the US dollar versus the Australian dollar is moving up and down all the time. And over a period of 5-10 years, the currency shift can be significant. And if the currency moves by 20% in that time, you could find yourself actually negative 20% in return, or maybe positive 20% in return, regardless of what the stock has done. So when you're investing in foreign shares, whether you like it or not, you're also investing in the currency. Because you could buy those Apple shares, they could go nowhere for 5 years, exact same price, but the currency could shift by 20% in your favor, and then you could sell them and make a 20% profit. So if you're not factoring these things in, what are you doing? Like, in my opinion, you are just being very silly with your money. And I've got a pretty strong stance on this because, yeah, I'm biased. I make a product that helps you do all this stuff, but even in areas where I don't have a analytics product, like your gym performance, if you're losing weight, if you have a savings goal, if you're trying to start a business, like not understanding all the performance metrics, you're just kind of riding blind and hoping for the best. So if you can take away anything from this, A, track your performance, and B, make sure you're tracking it properly, because there's plenty of ways you can fool yourself into thinking you're tracking it, but in actual fact, like one layer deep of why questions, and you realize you have no idea what you're talking about. So do that. Ask yourself why on your assumptions about your performance. If you own a stock, ask yourself, not a why, but what was the performance last year or the year before? What was the performance of that holding in 2022? See if you can answer that. Alright, pulling up at home. It's the end of the vlog this morning. Work on high leverage activities and get after it.